Welcome everybody. This is a series that we've done in years past to go into the contents of the Swanepoel Trends Report, which is this year in its 19th edition. In prior years, Paul and I have tried to cram all 10 or 9 or 10 topics into a single hour. And the feedback we've gotten over the last year was, why don't we spend a little bit more time on each of the chapters? And so that's what we've done for this year. So we're going to cover, how many chapters are we doing in this series, Paul? Are we doing all of them or a section?
I think we're planning on all of them. I mean, there's enough there. And as you, to your point, everybody, it's a dense report, which is by design. It's meant to be kind of tackled in sections and segments. And so this is more of that approach for us here.
Okay, so everybody showing up today, we're going to be covering the chapter on real estate portals today and talking about some of our insights and findings from that. There's been some significant action in the real estate portal world over the last year, and so that's why we decided to do a deep dive on what's happening there. Realtor.com got a new CEO. Obviously, Homes.com made a significant has made some significant plays. Zillow continues to be a mighty player. So why don't Paul
just made a major acquisition? Yeah, so we'll jump right in.
Yeah, let's jump right in. Let's
so before we do that, I just want to give like a little overview of the rest of the report. This is just one part. We're looking at Trend 4 in this year's report, which is now live. You can, if you want to access it, you can get it digitally right now. G3trends.com/trends and purchase your copy. That comes with a print copy as well. Trend 1, we covered NAR. It's been a year of turmoil, and we just covered some of the challenges and some thoughts about how NAR can sustain and improve itself, and the industry can help. And analyzing the 4 primary brokerage business models. This one's a very interesting one, Jack. You and I worked on this one pretty closely, and it's a fascinating look at how to analyze and understand
that. It's such a cool chapter because I haven't seen anybody try to break it down this way, and I feel like it's
one of the cleanest ways yet that I've seen. And so it's a really good one. I think people will find some utility out of that. Then the buyer brokerage playbook. This is an extension of a variation of the action pack that maybe some of you know about, but it's what now? We know things are changing. What do you do? How do brokers prepare? Then we have the online real estate. Thanks, Jack. We have the online real estate, which is the portals. Essentially, portals have been in function for about 2 decades at a high level, and we're kind of doing a catalog of where they are now, where they're headed. Twin 5 is a deep dive into Howard Hanna Real Estate, which is the largest brokerage company that's family-owned and family-run. And it's a very interesting. It's privately held. All the other big companies are not. And we interviewed all the executives, and we get a deep dive into what they're doing, how they do it, and a little bit where they're headed. Then we dive into generative AI. Jack, you had a colleague or a friend who was a PhD in AI, or I don't know the specific field, but he helped us really cut through the buzz of generative AI and kind of highlight what the specific utility is, the limitations, and just gives a really clear-eyed outlook on what this is and cuts through a lot of the noise, which I think is very useful. Then this one, Jack, really well, the agent archetypes.
Yeah, this is a foundational chapter. We have worked with it in our consulting practice for a decade about the 4 fundamental ways agents make money. I've had people tell me that it should be required education, that it should be part of CE, that it should be all of that. It's very powerful, very fundamental, and we did an update to it this year and published it as a complete chapter, which we've never done before. So that should have some significant longevity if you're involved with helping agents make money in any way, shape, or form. It's a must read.
And then we analyzed the inventory situation, which is, and we had our economist, Dr. Paul Bishop, lead this chapter, and it's a broader scope. It's like what's happening. This has been a years-long issue, and then what's potentially happening, and what are the different factors to watch and what's going to happen in years to come. And it's a big topic. It's probably one of the foundational ones of the business for a lot of brokerages going forward, along with some other things as we know. And then we have a lot of data coming through our company. We just compile these into a set of facts that are really compelling and interesting, like analyze market share by brokerages over the years. And then we just launched a T3 Tech marketplace, and we analyze technology products and companies. And anyhow, it's a as you can see,
I think again, there's some essential reading in that chapter for brokerage industry leadership, because those of you that attended the T3 Leadership Summit know the last 5 years have the industry has dramatically changed. If you look at the top 20 companies, almost half of them were founded since 2000. The transaction volume has moved around. There's been a significant tightening in terms of the consolidation of unit volume and sales volume. This chapter's got some really incredible material for you to educate yourself on what's been happening, and some great things to also share with agents and even with consumers about our industry. So must read. It's a must read.
And as you can tell, this is a diverse list. This is the idea. This is a strategic guide for industry leaders to help them guide their companies into the next era and growth and change, and help them understand what's happening and what to do about it. So we'll jump into the portals. We're just diving into this one chapter today, the trend. As Jack mentioned, and as we talked about, 2 decades in, like where things stand now and where they headed. We have a lot of movement. We have a lot of development. We have a lot of change. We all know this goes without saying. Internet's like increasing popularity. Buyers and sellers are using it, or buyers particularly. This is from the NAR study or survey. 96% of people are starting their search online, and the portals see that opportunity. A lot of people see that opportunity, and they've gone all in. They started going all in a couple of decades ago. CoStar has just jumped in a major way, and here we are. So we're going to talk about the 4 major portals, or the leading portals, and these we analyzed. We put them on a spectrum of roughly where they are and how they make money, and they're on a spectrum of, are they higher more toward the transaction as far as the revenue, or are they more as a pure marketplace? You can see how we roughly line these up here. Like Homes.com is coming in as a pure marketplace play.
Yeah,
they're not participating in referrals, and they don't have a referral wing. Who knows if they develop it, but they've jumped to the commercial wing and the rental. They're a leader in commercial portal and a rental portal, and we suspect that they're going to apply the same strategy. And Realtor.com, Jack, I know we know a lot about them. They're a little bit in the middle. They have a referral wing. Yeah. They also have a healthy dose of just straight up leads that they pass to agents. But the reason they're more to the right, they're not participating in ancillary. They don't own their own ancillary businesses like Zillow and Redfin do. And those companies are not only they're doing referrals, they're heavily invested in growing the ancillary side of their business.
This is principally mortgage, but other ancillaries as well through their through their either co-owned or joint ventures. So that's, I think this chart's really helpful for understanding the landscape in terms of, I love it when you put this chart in. I love this chart because it's like, it really tells you where people live in the ecosystem
relative to each other.
So I think it's super helpful for understanding that landscape. So,
and we identified 5 major overarching revenue approaches for these firms that they're all kind of participate in some way. They're just brokerage referrals, which Homes.com is not in there now, but that's a big component of a lot of the others. The brokerage and ancillary leads. So Realtor.com does not operate an ancillary business, but it has a marketplace, and all these companies do have marketplaces for. Maybe Redfin does not, and Homes.com does not yet. But it's an important strategy for those two. And marketing and advertising was straight up branding for agents. So this is something that Homes.com has really said it's leaning into with this My Listing, My Lead approach. Ancillary businesses that we discussed, and rentals, which is a huge new one that Redfin just acquired a couple of years ago, like $680 million RidPath. So they're like top of funnel for future home buyers, and it's also a revenue source. So this allows you to categorize and understand these companies' businesses. Okay, we got some work with SimilarWeb and got some data from them about these companies. So these are the 10 most popular real estate sites by average monthly unique visitors from July to September 2023 from
Right.
SimilarWeb. Keep in mind, this is just home portals. We excluded commercial portals. We excluded predominantly rental portals. So this is the top 10 by
Right.
unique visitors, not visits, unique visitors. And I have to say, this does not include mobile app.
Yeah.
This is only desktop and mobile web.
only desktop. Desktop and
Desktop
mobile
and
web.
mobile web.
Mobile web,
Yeah.
not mobile app. So mobile visits, but not including the use of the mobile apps. So yeah, and again, I want to comment on this. I think the decision, we're using quarterly measurements because the months can be very noisy, as we saw, back in September. Homes made some claims about, hey, we
Yeah.
moved to one, and in the quarter smooths that out a little bit to say, okay, who's consistently doing that? So that's why I think the quarterly measurement's a little more valid, and unique visitors also, I think, a little bit more valid. So that that's an actual unique person coming to the site. So
Yeah. And you can see that the Remax is up there. Compass, of course, is there.
mm-hmm.
And there's two Coldwell Banker sites, which is interesting. One is the franchise brand side,
Mm-hmm.
and one is the company owned
Yep.
at Anywhere. They're brokerage, so that's something to call it. Also, Trulia is still going strong. It should be noted, which is
still
obviously a
significant
component of
still a
Zillow.
significant player. Yeah, still number 5, still a significant player. So all right, well, step us through them.
All right. Well, I think this is, we don't need to go. I just want to give a snapshot of here. We can go on to the next side. I think we focus on the top 4. So this is the 4 largest. As we said, these are the dominant. They have coming in. They're have a majority of the traffic, and this just like gives their unique visitors for that same time period, the average monthly unique visitors and unique visits. And just Zillow is dominant, as it has been for years. And you can see on the right, we have where the growth, we also measured growth from August 2020 to August 2023. And you can see the change in visitors and change in visits. Actually, Homes.com just, it's come in with the acquisition. Keep in mind, this is like renewed blood, and CoStar's come in 2021 and acquired Homes.com and really has started investing heavily. So you can see Zillow is already dominant.
Yeah. That big percentage on the right, I asked you about this before the call, that big percentage on the right, that change in visitors and significant change in visits for Homes.com really represents them investing and driving a lot of new traffic to the site. Doesn't mean the traffic is necessarily coming back month over month, but definitely pushing a lot of new traffic there, which is why that change in visitors is such a big number. And then Redfin still also seeing substantial growth there with 30% change in visitors, but the 7.3, that's a lot of people coming back again and again. That represents
that's also the rent acquisition. There was a significant traffic with that acquisition because they had 4 rental sites with that. So we're going to step through each one. We did this in alphabetical order. So just a brief synopsis of, we're going to go through each of the portals. Homes.com, of course, owned by CoStar Group. CoStar was founded in 1999, and just the revenue. So that revenue must be off, Jack. There must be a typo in total 2022 revenue. Not sure, but the net revenue, the Homes.com lost 23.5, and they broke that out. CoStar is a big company, of course,
right?
And then the market value of the company, CoStar Group, which is 32 billion. So it's one of the largest. It's probably the largest in the industry, besides home services.
So I think my takeaway from this is clearly an investment that CoStar is making. They have an asset not yet performing that they just acquired, recently, and so they're pushing money into it in order to to drive up the utility of it, to drive the traffic. So they're in an investment mode with this asset.
And it should be noted that they entered the rental space in 2015 with a $500 million acquisition of Apartments.com. It is now the leading traffic getter for rental sites.
Yeah.
And they're trying to apply that same playbook to the home portal space with Homes.com. And they acquired, of course, HomeSnap. They folded HomeSnap into Homes.com. HomeSnap will be Homes.com Pro, and then there's Homes.com for consumers, Homes.com Pro for the agents component. And so their model is they're going after listing agent. When, I know you've thought a lot about my listing, my lead, Jack. Um, when you can talk a little bit about that strategy.
Yeah, so homes.com feels like they're purists in that they're saying, look, we're going to allow media opportunities, advertising opportunities, which really, when Zillow was launched, when Trulia was launched, and even Realtor, it's like that was the approach in the early to mid 2000s of those portals, is they were really pure media and advertising plays. And it took about a decade for the evolution of those sites to move to more referral models and different business models. So in some ways, this feels a little bit like a throwback in terms of the business strategy that we saw portals pursue at that time. And it's a different time. We're in a different era. I think leads are differently understood now. We've had 2 decades of online lead generation behind us, and so I think we're going to see how that approach plays out. And I know that if you talk to the Realtor and Zillow folks, they're going to tell homes, hey, there's just not enough income there for you. Like there's only so much media that agents are willing to buy.
They've done this in commercial. They've done the same playbook in commercial as they've done in rental, and you can see it. We covered this in a Trends Report 2 years ago.
Yeah,
it's a very clear playbook. It's to be determined whether it's going to work in this.
And I think that's the counter. I think that's Homes.com's counter, is they say, well, we've done this very successfully in several other verticals and have really healthy businesses running in commercial and rental that are pure play marketplaces.
And they're really focused on local, like exclusive content to a high degree. If you look at their neighborhood, they've talked about the strategy, the neighborhood pages and the videos, and like they're actually going in. Yeah, and they have a content team that's really big. So okay, we'll move to Realtor.com. The industry knows Realtor pretty well. It's the official consumer side of NAR under an operating agreement from 1996, and they've recently have a new leader in Damian Eales, who's has I know we've heard good things, and they're aggressively making some changes and looking to be a really strong competitor in the space, as they have been for years.
I think the most notable thing putting in, so Damian, who I've spent a fair amount of time with, and T360 spent some time with him. We met him over the summer. He is bringing he was at REA in Australia. He moved here to the US. He's actually here in Austin, Texas. So this is not some remote, executive who flies in, flies out. He's very hands-on. And he appears to be bringing the REA playbook to the US. And doing something that's not really been done, like bringing in the entire News Corp media network, which is an enormous media network, where you've got the Wall Street Journal and you've got all of the Fox Media Network and all the things that are owned by the parent company, and activating that. And this is public information. They did a press release on it, said this is our strategy, and that's a big move. And to have done that in his first 3 or 4 months in the role is a different creation. Filter.
And REA is a leading Australian portal, to be clear. They've really had some innovative products and growth there, and he's looking to bring that to this side, the States. So we'll jump to Redfin. We all know Redfin. The interesting thing, and in the interest of time, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, Jack. Sure. They have, of course, acquired the big rental acquisition. But the new news, they come out, they're really hunting profitability. They've really they've talked openly about it. They are moving toward a more marketplace model, where Glenn Kelman, the CEO, has talked about 55% of the inquiries next year will be sent to agents and other brokerages, which is, it used to be dominant in-house. They would send it to their agents, but that has changed. There's also are testing traditional agent model instead of employee agents in a couple of markets, which I think is which is interesting. I think it's LA and San Francisco, because they're looking at how to weather the ups and downs. Because Jack, as you know, over the years, it's the market's good, they hire agents, market's bad. That's the challenge of the employee model. One of the challenges there,
for sure.
Employee agents. Jumping to Zillow, we all know Zillow, of course. It's a leader. It has a number of portals: Zillow, Trulia, TreatEasy. It's acquired ShowingTime, which is becoming a listing tool that they really kind of focused on. Of course, they acquired Follow Up Boss, which is the leading teams focused CRM. And Jack, anything you want to call out specifically with Zillow?
Yeah, I think obviously we were seeing some retrenchment here from the iBuyer work that was from the prior few years, and they've still maintained an enormous media presence and an enormous consumer presence. So it's hard to see them losing that top spot quickly because of how much they've invested over the past 2 decades, not just in the site and the SEO and all of that, but in just the brand equity itself. So still,
they're rolling
player.
They're rolling out this super app. They've talked about this, and they've launched these enhanced markets where, like, in some of these enhanced markets, I think there's 6 now, maybe as of right now, and they are sending, like, exclusively those leads are only referral, because in other markets it's a hybrid. Like, some of them are just straight, that they can pass it to agents and agents can work themselves. This one is just referral exclusive. Also, it's real-time touring, and they're more, the messaging with their home loan product is more integrated within that flow, which is interesting because it's, if you read the messaging, it's like they're looking to have the consumer give them to the agent, but then usher them through these other stages as, like, the connectivity through the the lead to close, which is, I think, an interesting model there.
Yeah.
And then I think, in interest of time, jumping to takeaways, there's some some broad level takeaways. And Jack, I think before we go to these, we've talked about the commission, the compensation changes happening.
Yeah. So there's kind of an overarching theme, and it's through this Swanepoel Trends report, and has been, obviously we've been writing about it for the past few years. The impact of buyer brokerage is rippling through and impacting different areas of the industry, portals included. And what it is causing is that, this first bullet here, performing partners, any of these companies that operates a referral type of model is going to place a much higher importance on sending leads or referrals to agents that can close. And so they want to work with people that are proven in being able to work with buyers, get a buyer brokerage agreement signed. And so that appears to be, there's consolidation happening there. That's been happening for a while, mostly led by Zillow, in terms of really focusing on the Flex program and focusing on the top tier of agents and teams that really know how to handle internet-based business. A lot of agents don't handle it, don't know how to handle it. It's one of these, it is a very particular kind of business to run. And so that overall theme, I think the moving down the funnel, we've seen that was probably the big transition from the 2000s through the early 2010s, is as with Realtor purchasing Opcity and Zillow creating its own referral model, moving into being able to participate in the transaction in a more meaningful way financially.
Not to mention the iBuying blip.
Yeah, and then iBuying, I mean, becoming a corporate buyer of real estate. Actually saying, I mean, we're gonna not just materially participate in the transaction, we're going to become a party to the transaction on the buy side. I mean, that's a huge experiment that the industry ran, and that we've all learned something from. That's why I think we've ended up with a few companies like Opendoor that have survived the iBuyer war and are showing that there's a segment of the market that they're going to continue to pursue with that. And that's why you're seeing Zillow and Redfin partner with them and say, look, we're going to pick the top iBuying company and work with them. I like this call out about touring. I think we're definitely seeing that as a trend.
That call to action on in Realtor.com in certain markets is using it too. It's the same for now or tour this property, that's on the listing detail page. It's not contact agent. It's not. Yes. It's tour. That is very like happening, and then they're targeting sellers, especially. That's like kind of one of the offshoots of the compensation, but also this is an extension of the iBuying push. There's a lot of sellers are really, really valuable to the industry, as they have to for a long time, and it's a hard nut to crack. It's harder for these portals, but they're going after them. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. Obviously, like we just ran through this, and we left a lot on the floor. That you can order the report now here. We also do exclusive presentations like I and Jack and other members of the team are available to run through the full report and tailor it to your team. So you can reach out to Jack or I or another member of the team, and we can coordinate something like that. You can purchase the report today at the t3trends.com/trends.
Yeah. And we're still offering the pre-order pricing,
Correct.
which will save everybody some money. And we do have bulk orders as well. Also, I'd say I know we have this series that's going to be running on for about 6 weeks. We're going to cover a lot of the topics in the chapter. Paul, do you know what we're going to cover next? What are we going to do next week? Was it brokerage business models?
We're doing brokerage business models. That one's a good one.
So don't miss that one.
I would tune in for that one.
Yeah, that is some incredible content. But we're going to be going through kind of touching the high points of each of these chapters, and then there's a lot more in depth in the report. The report comes with a digital subscription, so you can read past reports. There are there's probably 8 or 9 chapters that I still refer back to even 3 or 4 years later. Super high value in that. There's some additional bonus content that we're releasing for subscribers throughout the year. So we're going to be doing some quarterly updates. So now's really time to get on board. So the best time to buy, because you're going to get, again, all the content from this year's report, the print report at the best price we offer, and the full subscription to all of the other Swanepoel Trends reports and real estate almanacs, any of the other material that we include in our research. And now's the time to do it. So look forward to seeing everybody again next week. Paul, I know you got to run to get on your flight, and then we'll see everybody again next week. And we will be posting a recording. I had a question about that. That is coming up. Danny, I just answered your question. So Paul, if you need to run, if there's any other questions, I'll handle them. But we'll see everybody else next week. So
thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, everyone. I'm just watching to see if there's any other questions. Go hit t3trends.com/trends, and that's where you can pick up your copy of the report. I would also be remiss to point out we have a new digital product on the site, which is the Buyer Brokerage Action Pack. It is a full training program for brokers on what to do around the buyer brokerage issues. It comes with a copy of the Trends Report. So there's another option that will get you a Trends Report as well that's on the site. It's under Buyer Brokerage Action Pack. We have been working with, at this point, dozens and dozens and dozens of brokerages that need to implement better buyer brokerage practices because of the changes and shifts related to the class action lawsuit. So do have a look at that. It is a lot of material. It's about 2.5 hours of video content designed to be played in sales meetings in front of your agents. And it includes this year's report and last year's report, the chapters on compensation. So you'll have the full background for any conversations you're having about buyer brokerage compensation. So those are just a couple of things I want to make sure everybody being aware of. I've got a few questions coming in, which I'm happy to answer live. Dara posted into the chat. Do we see any new and upcoming players in the market? Not really. We see a lot of, the big new and upcoming player is CoStar, having invested a significant amount of money into homes.com and dumping a ton of traffic onto here. This really is a battle of the titans. I mean, you look at the traffic of the largest brokerage sites, Coldwell Banker, Remax, any of those, and you look at the top 4, and it's just there's an additional 0 in terms of the monthly unique visitors. So it's pretty substantial. So to play in the big leagues, you really need a lot of money, and you need a lot of brand awareness. It's very expensive. So if we look, we see there's always new companies coming and going, but we don't see anybody really cracking into that top 10 or so based on the movement that we've tracked for this report. And there's some more information about a longer list of companies that are part of kind of top competitors in that space. We really see this as a battle of the titans. It has been for a while. So, all right. So I think we've handled all the questions. Thanks for everybody for attending today. It's great to be able to talk to our friends and in the industry and colleagues. And we'll be doing this again next week. Don't miss it. We'll be analyzing the 4 brokerage business models in the industry, find out who's been growing, who's been shrinking, how much sales volume they're taking. We did an in-depth analysis of the top 100 firms in that chapter. We have some great takeaways for those of you that are looking at brokerage business models, considering how your model stacks up against others, and a lot of insights. I think if you're running a brokerage or working with brokerages, this is essential. So I believe we're at the same time next week. So that's a good question. Yep. Same time next week, similar format. We'll spend about 25 minutes, half an hour going through that chapter with you, and then we'll be here to answer questions. So I'm going to log off because I have to run to another appointment and meeting. I hope everybody has a great week and help some agents sell some houses, or if you are an agent, go out there and make something happen for yourself. Goodbye and see you next week. Bye now.